Books on Books on the Brain.
Well, I was good. What?
The message wouldn't go away from my screen, but I'm done now. Okay.
Oh my god, okay, ready? Welcome back to Books on the Brain, a podcast of books and nonsense. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Deirdre.
And we are here to help you go to sleep. Deirdre and I were pitching ideas back and forth of like a low stakes, just like, how's everybody doing? And we were like, let's do a Get Unready with Me podcast. Nice and short. You can listen to it right before bed or whenever you listen. That is up to you.
Whenever. But Danielle and I are going to be doing face masks and skincare stuff as we chat.
Yeah.
I'm freshly clean and I have my face mask here. What are you putting on?
So I also wash my face, which doesn't happen often. I don't like washing my face. But I use the Tatcha rice polish, the classic. I really like it. It's very smooth. Face mask wise, I'm using the freezing mask from Sephora. Why? Because it's cold and I'm hot. And my face is always red. And this just, it feels cold even though you don't put it in the fridge. And if you put it in the fridge, it's like extra cold, which I love.
Ooh.
That's when it's just like a moisture thing. Like if you like, you know, like what is it called? The like blue cream that you get from Walmart that looks like water. I don't know. It's like that. That's what it feels like.
Okay.
Anyway, continue. What are you using?
I did my double cleansing system with Dermalogica pre-cleanse and special cleansing gel. Ooh. And I'm using the Dr. Jart Tiger Grass Calming Serum mask.
Fancy.
Everyone can see it. Yeah. Because as you can see, I have this giant friend on my chin who has been enraged for days and is finally calming down. We've gotten most of it out. So
woo. Fun. Okay, we're gonna both attempt to put these on. So the object of today's episode is we're just gonna shoot the poop about bookish things that have been happening, because there's been a lot that has been happening. Mostly in like, this is not a treat. Mostly in like the book to movie or TV show adaptation space, there's been a lot of news.
Yes. Shall we get one of the controversial topics out of the way before we get into the fun stuff?
Sure.
Because I guess this is kind of acting as our like April book news, and I don't think we didn't do a March book news thing either.
Who knows?
So we don't have many topics, but this is kind of acting as that with this topic in particular. Some of you, if you were on TikTok, may have seen the conversation circling about I don't even remember the creator's name. I know I'm about to put this on. It's gonna look scary. Some creator who was kind of whining that they felt like they couldn't make content about quote problematic authors, and I believe they specifically named like Sarah Janet and Joanne.
The Karens of the literary world.
Because they felt like they would be judged for making content about those books, even though they like them. This is hilarious.
We're talking about such serious stuff.
I know, as we're like applying these face masks.
This is so funny.
And for obvious reasons, people were like, look, do what you want. Like, if you're gonna make content about those authors, do it. And if you can't handle the consequences, that's on you. But also, if you are recognizing that there are issues within the books that some of your favorite authors write, and you're not willing to publicly grapple with that, that's also on you.
It's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, you can't be woke to the injustices of the world and be like, but I also want to read the book I like. It's really frustrating because there are people who like on any space on the internet are continuing to talk about these authors, and they're making like,
that's the thing. There are plenty of people whose entire platforms are Sarah J. Maas, Harry Potter, Jennifer L. Armentrout, like all these people who people have pointed out like things in their books that, you know, are harmful in the real world. And more, Jay Kristoff. And, you know, at the end of the day, no one's going around being like, why are you posting about that person? Like, a lot of us move on and we follow the people we want to follow.
Yeah, it's just like a block. It's like, okay, bye. And like, if it's a mutual, whatever, like those ones are always harder to deal with because you're like, oh, I do love this person, but like, it's tough. Like it actually ties into something I want to talk about later, but I won't talk. We'll frame this with controversial things. But it's like to see people getting upset. They're like, I'm being oppressed not to talk about my favorite authors. It's like, are you being oppressed, or are people like just calling you out on the BS? And then you're like, oh, I don't like when people are mad at me.
There are books being banned in this country right now.
Yeah.
Like, there is legislation being moved against books that are helping people, that are detrimental to the development and health of youth in this country. And like, some people are going to hear that and be like, that's a little excessive for some fiction books, but like, no, it's not. Like, and I think so to have people be like, I can't post about there are bigger fish to fry.
There are, like, even just in the literary space, let alone in other spaces. Like, it's so like, we, because of social media and technology, we have so much access to things we didn't. So like, to see all of the courtrooms where like drag queens are going to advocate and talk to Congress, or like municipal whatever, or even like librarians and teachers going to talk about books being banned, and these like incredibly conservative men, usually white men, are like, this book, and it's always like the most unproblematic queer books. I'm like, there are problematic books, absolutely, but you wanting to ban, I think I saw one recently for Meet Earl and the Dying Girl. I think that's what it's called. It's just like YA. It got a movie adaptation, but they're like, this is the sexual content in this. I'm like, it's crazy, because I'm like, to see these men and like what points they'll bring up. I'm like, and then people are like, I can't talk about my fairy. I'm like, oh. Stop. Like, it's so annoying. And just, it shows a lot of privilege, I suppose, like, that you can be upset by this.
Yeah. And I feel like two ways. Like, I feel annoyed that we're giving this conversation more airtime.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it is important to talk about, because people need to know that, like, yeah, there are consequences. There are plenty of people. Janet. Janet. No, what's
Joanne?
What's Joanne? That's who I meant. I didn't mean Janet. I meant Joanne. Who are not facing the consequences of their actions at all.
I feel like I should just jump into controversial topic number 2. I haven't even told you about this. So there was a video that came out this past week by this YouTuber called ContraPoints. Have you heard of them?
No.
So she is this YouTuber that puts out YouTube videos like maybe once a year. But they're like long video style, or like video essay style videos. Gotcha. So she is a trans creator. So she recently, like 3 or 2 years ago, she put out a video about J.K. Rowling, which was mostly just talking about like what a TERF is, which was like great for people who didn't know. But then she recently came out with a video on the witch trials of J.K. Rowling, and I was like, oh, I gotta watch this. Because she was actually asked by the people who produce the podcast to be on it. And she was on it. She talks about her experience, how she was interviewed on it because they wanted to get other people's opinions on it. Or like contrary opinions to what JK thought. And she was like, I didn't love it. And she talks like, I love the way that she talks about like, I can't remember her last name, Anita whatever. She was like a big anti-person for the gay rights movement. And she was like a spokesperson for Florida orange juice. And she was like this pageant woman who was, I'm gonna get rid of this thing because it's annoying me. Oh, can I not? No, I'm done. Sensory overload. It's close enough to 10 minutes. So this woman was like trying, this Anita woman back in the 70s or whatever was like, gay rights can't happen. I love gay people, but like if gay rights happens, our kids, and it's like these same talking points of what's being used against the trans community today. And I was like, the parallels are very interesting. So Natalie, who is this YouTuber, she talks about like a lot of the main talking points for TERFs and for people who are like very anti-trans, and how none of what they talk about makes sense. And like she disproves so much of it, and I was like, oh my god, we should all be watching that. Like this, it was like, I was like, it was just such a great follow-up to kind of what had been happening. It's like people can't be in the middle is what she basically said. And but like the thesis of her video is like, well, I'm no longer in the center, even though like politically maybe that's more where I fall. You can't be in the center. And like I was like, oh my gosh, everybody needs to watch this. I'll put it in the show notes, but it's long. It's like 2 hours. Like it's a fucking movie. But it's so good. It's so good. And just to hear someone whose actual lived experience is like what is happening, talk about these talking points and how hurtful they are, and actually showing proof of like, this is how this person is transphobic. And like, it's often like the biggest talking point against J.K. Rowling is like, show me one thing that J.K. Rowling has done that is transphobic. Like, show me one thing. And it's like, it's hard to prove someone's transphobic when they don't believe trans people exist. And I was like, oh my god. Like, it was all like, it was just like you guys gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. It is life-changing. I was like, this is what we all need to see. All the people who are like on the fence about like, oh, but I love nostalgia of Harry Potter, they need to see this. Which I feel like is the same demographic of people who are like, can I have my cake and eat it too about these controversial books?
Right. And I think it was Sim Kern put out a video over the last 2 weeks or so. Or within the last 2 weeks or so, that was talking about how it is becoming a problem that we're lumping Joanne in with other quote unquote problematic authors. And we've talked about this in the podcast before. Like, if you're new here, this is something we've talked about since the beginning, is this word problematic, and how problematic that word alone is, because it's so neutral. Like, the word itself is just a neutral blanket statement. And it allows for zero nuance.
Well, because like what she's doing isn't problematic because it goes beyond that, right? Like, it's harmful. It's hate crime area. Like, it's not great. But anyway, it's a small thing. I just was like, this ContraPoints YouTube video was like, and I'm like, I don't want to, it's that like borderline thing where I'm like, I don't want to take up space in this conversation, but I also want every freaking person on the internet to watch it. So I'm like, I'm just trying to drag people back to there because I think it's important. Think it's important.
It is important.
What? That was the only ContraPoints thing.
I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast.
Tell me.
But I started a note on my phone way back when of things for book news, and I had one thing in there and I just remembered.
Okay, what was it?
So this was from back in March. I have a Twitter thread pulled up. Shocker.
Okay.
This person, Brenda Romero,
Okay.
I'm just gonna like read the tweets verbatim. This is about the book Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle
Oh
Zevin.
yes. Yeah.
So it's direct reading. Regarding Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, my uncredited work is in the book. Solution, which is a game, is by the author's own admission a take on my game Train. She uses the same theme, gameplay patterns, releases the game at the same location, MIT, and even uses the same language I use to describe it. It's a game about complicity. My work is not credited in her book, although her book includes extensive credits. She only acknowledges it was my work when the New York Times and Wired magazine prompted her to. It may seem like a small thing to be bothered about, but to me it's not. Train is likely the best game I'll ever make. It matters to me. I spent a lot of time researching it, talking with the community it represents, and making something I felt was worthy. Nothing was taken for granted to have a game lifted without attribution, a game about the Holocaust, for goodness sakes. It's just unacceptable. I'm posting this because I've seen many devs talking about it, about having read it on the way to GDC, which I think is a con. A theme in the book is how women struggle to get credit for their work.
Oh no.
Update: the Washington Post spoke with Knopf, publisher of Tomorrow Times 3. They stand by Zevin and are apparently unwilling to credit me, noting the only games listed in the author's acknowledgments are video games. Board games don't count. Sorry, if I said earlier that Brenda made a video game, I was wrong. It was a board game. Further to note that Train was undistributed. How does that apply to other singular works of art, like paintings, for instance? This is very disappointing response, particularly from a novelist who writes about women not receiving credit. Watch this space. Train has been played by hundreds of people and viewed by thousands in museums from the US to Spain to the UK to Finland. And as someone who read the book at the beginning of this year and talked so highly of it, I was very surprised to read that, because I am what's the word, famously known for not playing many games, both board and video.
Sure.
And like, it's just a space that I'm not in. So when that was circulating, I was just very surprised and kind of upset. I was like, wow, I don't want to talk about this book as much anymore. And it was one of my favorite reads of the year. When I read it, like, I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was really great, but that really does make me reassess it, especially as somebody that like is a woman in the arts and constantly grapples with like the question of credit and acknowledgement, ownership, like all of that, like things we've talked about on the podcast before.
My question is, like, if she was acknowledging video games, why not just acknowledge the board? Like, was it because she had to pay royalties to them or something? Like, I don't, like, it seems so strange to me that she would acknowledge some and then not everybody. That seems strange.
Right. And at the end of the day, like, she did end up acknowledging that Train influenced Solution.
But like, too little too late, I think.
So why wouldn't, like, it's weird to me that she was like prompted to admit it, but then in this response from the publisher, they still kind of skirted around it, when it's like, it's already out there.
And it's like, for me, that would be like a selling point of buying. I don't mean, I own the book already, but like, if I was like, hey, like, this person is like, no, this person deserves credit. Okay, I'm gonna go look into it. This is cool that they were able to like see that a mistake was made and own up to it.
Right. I don't know. And like they said, like, it's about the Holocaust. Like, the character in the book, there's so much like personal stuff that's intertwined with the creation of that game. And I can only imagine that some of that was also true for Train.
Yeah. Yeesh.
It's like, oh, eek, eek.
Yeesh, not good. Well, boo, but also at least the person spoke up. So good job for speaking up for yourself.
I'm just gonna say I'm using the Summer Fridays lip butter balm. This is, I think it's vanilla. It's the one that I use. I'm obsessed with this.
Yeah.
I like it more than the Laneige sleep mask. I did not like I didn't like the Laneige sleep mask to begin with. But this is so much better, and I use it all day, every day.
Yo, I
It
use
makes my lips
the
feel so
Blista
nice.
stuff that I get from Shoppers because it's so good. I was putting on the Belief Water Bomb True Cream Aqua Bomb cream. It's just like literally a water cream.
Nice.
And then like when I actually go to bed, I'll put on the Clinique Moisture Surge overnight mask because I do love that. It's very good. Clinique was truly something I stole from my mother's medicine cabinet and then never stopped using.
Yeah, I love Clinique.
It like, does it smell like old lady? Yeah, but it's my old lady.
The Moisture Surge line,
yeah,
is so good. Also, I use the Take the Day Off oil cleanser to take my makeup off.
Is that the purple?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have that as
I
well.
love it. I use the oil with the pump top.
Oh, okay.
I'm obsessed. The balm.
Yeah, which I don't. It's messy. It's messy.
It is. I mean, the oil's messy too.
It's good for stage makeup because I'm like, if I wear like makeup day to day, it's mascara, and I'm not going to use balm for that because it looks like a raccoon murder victim.
Yep.
But
raccoon murder victim.
It does. It does. Okay. We also wanted to talk about, so here are the things. Okay, so Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes dropped its teaser trailer. Or first trailer, I don't know. What, little girl?
I feel like it was a full trailer. I feel like it wasn't a teaser.
It was freaking long. It was the whole first 200 pages of that book.
Really?
Yeah.
I know, because you famously read it.
Famously took me a year to read it. Famously, literally took me a year to read it. Like, start to finish, a year. And I have some controversial opinions. One, I don't love that because there was this whole thing on Twitter. I don't know if, oh my gosh, there's no much cat hair now. I don't know if you were following the whole, like, there's a part in the trailer where Rachel Ziegler bows, like Katniss bows in Catching Fire.
Right.
And that is not in the book. And that was something that Rachel was on Twitter saying, I improvised and they kept it. And here's the thing. The implications of it in the literary sense seems preposterous to me. I'm like, then it sets up this whole, like, it's confirming what so many people are like, oh, they knew about Katniss, like all this stuff, like these conspiracy theories about, like, have you seen
about Katniss?
Oh my god, there's this whole conspiracy theory that in the first Hunger Games movie, the only name in the drum was Katniss's, or was Prim's name. Was like a conspiracy to get Katniss to volunteer for her sister. Or have Prim go and die. Like, the conspiracy theories that have like bloomed out of this Hunger Games renaissance is wild. So I'm like, this Rachel Ziegler, who is this girl from District 12.
Yes.
There's no, as far as we know, in the literary sense, no relation between, her name's Lucy Songbird, I think, or something. Lucy something. And Katniss, as far as we know.
Right.
And if there is, I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm like, because then it's like, what is it, a genetic thing? Is it a personal vendetta against this family? Then it just like makes this whole societal revolt into something way more personal, which I don't really like, because there's something about the Hunger Games being so communal that I dig with. And if I hear literally one more person say President Snow's hot, I will be committing homicide. I will.
I hope they don't, for your sake.
Well, it's not gonna be my sake. It's gonna be whoever's in my vicinity's sake. I'm just kidding. I hate that man. I hate that man. And I feel like the only other person who's on the same page as me is Bridge. She's like, I hate this man. And I'm like, I hate this man too. The book does a pretty good job of like letting us know that he's the bad guy, even though it does paint him as the protagonist, which is like, it's hard not to sympathize with him when you're trained to sympathize with protagonists, especially in a YA space where it's like the protagonist is always the good guy in the YA space. So it was.
I feel like it's so hard though, because we know who he turns into.
And that's the thing. It's like they try to give us a little bit of sympathy, and then by the end he's irredeemable, which like sets up the rest of the series well. But there's parts in the beginning where I'm like, I know what you do and I don't like it. But just because he looks like a freaking, I don't know, frat boy, freaking Draco Malfoy wannabe, the girlies are like, ooh. And I'm like, he is a mass murder, genocidal poo-poo we hate. Although we get to see Tigress, and I love Tigress, and Tigress is being played by the girl from Euphoria, which like is going to be, I think, I don't know if Tigress is openly trans, but the actor is, so first trans person in Hunger Games, kind of slay.
It's exciting.
And Rachel's also POC, so it's like,
yes,
we're living our full
and
lives.
she's from New Jersey,
and she's very nice. I've never met her, but she seems very my parasocial relationship with her is she seems very nice.
She seems nice. Yeah, I didn't read the book.
At this point,
I haven't been excited for it. It's funny, I had a conversation with one of my coworkers today, and I think she wanted me to have a different response than I did. She was like, I just ordered the book, I'm so excited, blah blah blah. And I was like, I saw the trailer and I felt nothing.
Here's the thing,
like I'll be honest, I watched that trailer and I was like, okay. I felt nothing. And I've seen so many people posting, and in my memory, the people whose recommendations I usually agree with and trust and know, like the things I like and don't like, did not like that book.
I could probably count on one hand the amount of people who actually like that book, because it also came out at the worst time. Oh my god,
I know. And she was like, all my friends liked it, I'm so excited, da da da. And I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm not giving you the reaction you wanted, because I
not excited. This is another controversial take. The girlies that are excited for the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes are what our generation would have been the people who are really excited about like the Damon Elena part of the love triangle, like the bad boy and the like it feels very much that like, oh
sure,
we're giving the bad guy and he's redeemable, but this bad guy is not like it's not. And if they make him redeemable,
they can't
like, knowing what we know, they can't. And it's not like, and the problem with it being a prequel is like they can't even be like, here's all this stuff that happens between the end of the movie and then the start of the Hunger Games, because we don't get to see that. Like he's gotta be Snow by the time the movie ends, which then leads me to believe, why does it take him so long to do something? Because that guy's old in the Hunger Games.
Yeah,
because it's like what, the 10th and Hunger Games,
I think maybe? It's the 10th, and
then she's in the 74th. That's a lot of years.
Yeah.
That's a lot of years. Why was he waiting so long? Dude, what's going on?
I know.
What's going on?
I know.
So many questions that will never be answered. And also, okay, my biggest thing, and I talked about this when I read the book, was like the best part of the Hunger Games, in my opinion, other than like the love triangle, whatever, is the actual games. By far, the most interesting. The games in this stupid little book. Oh, I don't even have the book. I don't know where the book is. It's just a dust jacket. Where it is.
For anybody that's only listening to this, I would highly recommend you go watch just for that moment, because that was hilarious.
Actually, I do know where the book is sitting in my trunk with about 13 other naked hardbacks because we did a number for Matilda from a musical theater class where they needed books. So
Nice.
I took there are a couple in here that are just
the dust jacket.
Just dust jacket. So I've, because you know, like organization is obviously very important to me, so I needed to know exactly where those books go back on the shelf. Anyway, the Hunger Games, like the games part of that book, less than 100 pages. Also, like from the trailer, looks like a dumpster, like a dumpster in the desert. Like,
I know, right? I was like, what is this?
Because I was imagining when I read the book, she was giving like football stadium. Like that's what I was imagining. And a couple other people were like, yeah, that's also what I kind of pictured. Because it's like they have no money, there's no whatever. The games actually last for like, the games are not the most exciting part of that book, but then it's like, what is?
Right.
Nothing. The book's boring. The book sucks. Don't tell Suzanne Collins I said that. But
or do.
I mean, yeah, tell her. Where's she been for the past 10 years? Reading this? No excuse. Where's the Haymitch book?
Where's the Haymitch book?
Or the Finnick book? Like, you kill him, you owe us. You
That's
don't
the
owe
thing.
me anything.
Is it feels like the way people describe Lucy.
Yeah.
I don't understand her connection. And it feels weird that there isn't a connection to the original trilogy. Like, I'm like, Lucy... I would have been so much more interested if it was a Haymitch book, and we led into, I would have been perfectly happy if she was gonna take us into like maybe in order of the people we meet in book 2.
Oh, how
all
fun
of their
would that
games
be? I would love that. Like
people like Haymitch, Finnick,
Meg's the old lady.
Yes, her, the
Beatsy
two that pair off. Joanna.
Oh yeah, any of that would love.
You know?
Would love. Like what Lucy is. Like she's just a YN stand-in for Katniss. Like she basically becomes, I don't want to spoil, but like, I mean, is it spoiling? It's quiet. Like, you know what's gonna happen by the end of that book. Like, it's not a happy ending.
Because isn't Haymitch the only other winner from District 12?
Yes.
So.
Yes. It's this whole. It's like, yes, he is, because he's the only person who lives in the Victor Village, whatever it's called. Is that what it's called?
I think so.
Okay. I've read the books in so long.
I know. So many people.
Like,
can we talk about how many people were rereading the Hunger Games over the last month?
I know, and like the amount of people who forgot that Peeta is an amputee in the second and third book. They were like, I'm like, you guys, yeah, they like magically got rid of the fact that he's an amputee, which is not great.
No.
Not great.
And it reminded me that when I did my first like purge of my home collection at my parents,
did you get rid of them?
I got rid of the third book because I hated it so much. So I only own books 1 and 2.
First of all, love that for you. There's nothing truer to your brand. I love that. Like,
I know, but it feels really weird that I'm like fine having a incomplete series like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm fine.
I don't think I've reread Mockingjay since the first time I read it, to be honest with you.
I haven't reread the series since the first time I read it.
She had her, yeah, I did. I've reread the first 2 books.
I would like to.
I think I want to reread them like before. Like, I think I want to reread them and then do a movie marathon. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
But
should we do that?
Yeah, I would love that. But you'll have to deal with me through Mockingjay because I will be insufferable. Are
you kidding?
Here's the thing, like
got rid of her copy.
I know, but I complain so much. I read the book 2 years ago and I'm still complaining about it. But I think maybe we'll balance each other out. It will just be like a communal, like, we hate this so much. Yeah. But let's do it. If you guys want to follow along on our Hunger Games reread, you'll have to go rebuy a copy of Mockingjay because we know you all got rid of yours as well.
No, I'll be renting that from the library.
Good for you. Do you want to read the prequel?
I guess. I just don't want it to take a year.
Remember, it took me a year to read the audiobook. It wasn't even the physical book. It took me a year to read the audiobook.
How would we do it? Do you want to read the prequel first, or do you want to read the trilogy first and then the prequel?
I think the trilogy first and the prequel.
I'll do it.
Mostly because then if I reread the prequel first, I won't get to the trilogy. The chances of me DNFing Songbirds is very
Also,
high.
we have so much like we could do the movie marathon in between reading.
Aw, like a little class project.
Like, yeah, and then
cute.
Because the movie doesn't come out for a while.
That's true. And even if it doesn't matter, it's gonna be so different. It's gonna be so different. Yeah, I'm excited because I love the Hunger Games. I love the institution of the Hunger Games. It is it feels like the only part of my childhood that has been left like undisturbed by the waves of people being terrible. Like, and it's weird because the whole principle is kids killing each other. But I'm like, it's the only property that I feel like I can open chest, be like, yeah, I love the Hunger Games. Which is strange, but yeah, I don't know. If I see one edit on TikTok of like a sexy corn his name's not Cornelius because that's the guy from Thumbelina. Cornelius.
I thought his name was Cornelius.
Let me look at the Corniolanus, I believe is how you say it. Coriolanus, like anus, isn't it?
Not
and
anus.
You gotta emphasize the anus. Coriolanus, anus. Oh my god. Oh, speaking of not speaking of anus. Guess what comes out in August? Bad transition, bad segue.
That's not good.
Sorry, it's fine. Here's the thing, I'm not excited for it. I feel like every time I'm not excited for it. I feel like my feelings are gonna be hurt. And remember, Red, White, and Royal Blue was not my favorite.
That's what we're talking about, everybody. We're talking about the Red, White, and Royal Blue poster that was released.
Their shoes look so cheap. They look like H&M velvet $20 shoes.
I disagree.
I think you need to take a second look. I saw them and I was like, could they not have gotten them like a nicer shoe?
Oh, it's because it's edited so bad. Like,
whatever the reason, they look cheap. Those two men are high status men.
Henry's shoes are patent leather. And the editing on it makes it look like a cartoon shoe.
I was like, this looks bad. Like, this looks like bad.
But also, it's the black shoe with the navy on the sock.
Maybe. Yes.
That's
but
pretty,
both
like
of
that's
them.
what's killing me.
And my problem is, and this is a hot take, is the chemistry between your two lead actors so bad that you had to release a promo with their faces not in it? What was the reason? What was the reason for the feet pic? What was the reason for the feet? Who asked for that? I want to see their dogs.
I know. I am kind of sad we didn't get like a recreation of the book cover.
Yeah, or like a still. Like, I would have loved to see a still, or like, because is that the official movie trailer? Like the poster for the movie, or is that just a sneak peek? Because if it's
I think it might just be a sneak peek. I don't know.
Part of the iconicness, in my opinion, of Red, White, and Royal Blue cover is the pink. Like, the pink
I know
is so iconic, especially the Casey's brand, which tells me like Casey did not have a lot of say in this. Of like the darkest, most drab colors. I was like, oh,
I know it's very politician.
Which is not what this book
Which is not what this book is about.
The Succession girlies are coming for that. They're not gonna find it, and they're gonna find some turkeys, and they're gonna find
the turkeys.
I
swear to God, if they cut the turkey scene, I will lose my mind.
They can't. Like, they already cut because I saw someone talking about like why the red, white, and royal blue, like a super fan. They're like, why it's all red flags, but there's not a single green flag in this movie. And I was like, and they're like, it's because they've combined so many of the characters. Like the character of the reporter and the guy that Alex meets in college, whatever, have been combined into the same character. And I was like, that's like, and like, because then it's like,
there's already not a lot of characters in that book.
and there's honestly not a lot of
there's
plot.
like
There's a lot of letter writing, which is like also the plot of 50 Shades of Grey, where it's a lot of letter writing for most, which is fine. But like, if you were to tell me the one thing that they're like we have too much of in this book was plot, wouldn't believe you.
No. Can we talk about all the book to movie adaptations that feature letter writing? Romances specifically?
Phantom of the Opera.
Oh.
It does.
P.S. I Love You.
Yep.
To All the Boys.
Love and Gelato. She's reading her mom's diary, I think. All the Boys. 50 Shades. They send emails where he says laters, baby. Twilight, when Bella sends all of those letters to Alice, or the emails, and they don't send. Oh.
Yep.
How embarrassing. I mean, I don't know if there's any more.
But that's still a lot.
There's like, and like for me, and like I can think of some like one to watch has like, and even like, what's the one, the other plus size one that we like better? The fan fiction one. The Cupcake Date.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, thank you. Yes, you would know. You're just like, I do know the Cupcake.
It was donuts, not cupcakes.
Oh, sorry. You're lucky I remembered a thing about that book.
I was like, what are you talking about?
But like that whole thing, because there's that format of like the AO3 fanfic, or like in One to Watch, it's like the Twitter threads and the whatever, where it's like we've graduated from letter writing into like, here's other ways we can show text, but it's like kind of cool, which I hate.
Yeah.
If I see one more like, it started popping up in Kindle Unlimited books where people will have like the text bubbles when they're texting each other, and I'm like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. Just, you can describe it. They said this. Like, it's easy. One sentence.
Yeah. I like when it's I like when the page is formatted.
Sure.
With sans the text bubbles.
Okay,
then,
yeah.
like, especially if I'm physically reading it, it makes it easy for me to understand that it's like through text messages and like who's saying what, rather than being like, John texted. Da, 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 da,
this is true.
I responded. Da, 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 da. Like, it just cuts out all that exposition stuff and gets right to what I like to read.
This is true. It feels very much like a graphic novel function, which is fine. Yeah. But then I wanted you to go the whole 9 yards. I want like pretty end covers and stuff.
Right. Speaking of graphic novels.
What?
We got news about Heartstopper season 2. This is
true. Everyone's so excited, but I'm like, have y'all not read the comics? Bad things are coming.
I know.
Things are coming.
Oh God. All I remember from finishing that series was, wow, I got no trigger warnings.
And that's the thing. I think now maybe they're more widely talked about, but even when because I recommended them to you, and I also didn't give you any content warnings, because like it really doesn't start picking up a lot of steam until like end of book 2, book 3, book 4. It gets a little bit more, but like
intense.
It's a lot. Like it's a lot, especially if you're a casual reader. And like if I read that when I was a teenager, I would have some problems. I would have some problems with it. Yes, little girl. What?
But I'm super excited for season 2. I loved season 1.
It's gonna be good.
It was so perfect.
It is gonna be good.
Have you watched Shadow and Bone?
I have watched
season 2.
I have.
Thoughts?
I know you liked it.
I did. You didn't?
I don't know. I don't think I liked it. But I think I was so blindsided that I couldn't come off of the fact that I was so blindsided.
I think we were blindsided by the same thing.
I think we can talk about it. If you haven't watched Shadow and Bone, go watch it, come back.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Can we talk about it?
Yeah, I would like to.
The fact that they killed David off before him and Jenya got married, I literally have not recovered from it.
We deserve a wedding. We not
bare minimum.
I deserve. We were given it. You cannot take it away from us. That's so
Bardugo.
rude. It's rude.
It is rude, and it also
and uncalled for. There is so much that David does.
So much.
Like in the book universe.
Yeah.
That
he's a huge part.
How could you get rid of him so soon? How are you going to justify that?
It just like sucks because he's like one of the only like very obviously neurodivergent people in the show, and they're like, kill him off. And I was like,
yeah, bye.
I was like, we love David on this podcast. We irrationally
this is a David
love this
Stan
man.
account.
we love David. I have a sticker of David on my laptop to this day. I love David. I just was like so like my stomach, because I still can't even like reread the Grisham books at all because of that. Like no. He is like it just was too much, and like for that to happen so early in the show, I'm like, I have no motivation to watch anything else ever again.
No,
my feelings are
because
hurt.
David's the best.
And like what happens to Jenya now? Who's she gonna end up with? Like it just was like, and then the whole thing with Mal at the end of the season and Elena.
Which,
and
famously
Nikolai.
I have never been on his side, so
no, but at least the TV version of him is a little bit better. Like I find him at least passable if I like put on my YA rose-colored glasses. The TV version of him is okay. But
sure.
The fact that, because correct me if I'm wrong, because I really stopped paying attention after David died. Elena ends up with Nikolai, as far as we know, at the end of the TV show, or it's hinted at.
No.
What happens at the end? Because maybe I haven't.
I think.
Just tell me. I'm not watching.
I'm trying to remember, because the end of the last episode is where we really veer into breaking from the end of the original trilogy and setting up the crows.
Mal leaves.
If in my mind they ended their engagement, because the last scene of the show is his coronation, and Jenya, Zoya, and what's her face, Alina, are there with him. Like all three of them are there.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like to me that Alina was like his consort.
No, and I'm not saying that but it feels like because Mal leaves, right? Like Mal is not currently where Alina is. That it's like very much they're setting up like Mal's not coming back, and it's like we read the book. We know Mal is the end game for Alina. As far as we know, because who knows? The books don't really seem to matter, which sucks. But
except for the crows.
Except for the crows have to be word for word verbatim. Because the fans
I feel like they've set up the crows in a way that but I feel like it makes sense.
I think they set them up in the only way that they could, is what I will say diplomatically. Do I think that we are going to miss out on like the Jesper Wylan like flirty banter of the first book? Yeah, because they're already in this like committed loving relationship.
I think like, they went too fast. They went too fast with that.
It's like part of the whole beauty of is like Jesper through the beginning of that, or through the first book, really in the beginning of the second, he's both coming to terms with like his gender, sexuality identity, and also his like Grisha identity, which is such a beautiful like co-tandem arc.
Which does make me interested for what they're going to do with the crows, specifically him, because it feels like he's really settled into his Grisha identity and his sexuality, that I'm like, ooh, are we gonna get kind of like maybe a more mature version of these characters from that book? Which, like, that was my biggest
absolutely
critique of the book, was that so much of it felt so big, and yet a lot of the reason the things were falling apart was because the characters felt too immature.
Well, because like, I don't know how many times I've like, obviously Lee Bardugo wrote these as older characters, and then to sell it as YA, she had to make them younger. Like, she originally wrote these books with these people being, and it is like in the bones of the book, these people, like, who lets a 17-year-old run a freaking like gang? Like, no, but like, these are older characters, quite obviously. And even all of just like the like marriage stuff that happens in the King of Scars stuff, I'm like, these are not children. Like, these are older people. Yeah, that would be nice. I don't know. It feels like, because do they get what's his face out of prison?
No.
So they still have to go get him out.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have no connection to him now. Like, I feel like this entire season was a waste of like all of the chemistry that they built up between Nina and Matthias in the first season.
I disagree though, because I feel like we spent a lot of time in this season really understanding Nina's like hurt. Like, she wants to help him so badly. She loves him so much, and that's where we meet them in the book. And I feel like, at least for those two characters, we're gonna get the I want to fucking kill you because you put me in this prison. And she's like, I love you and I don't care.
That's true. That is true.
Like, I think they did build up that relationship dynamic in season 2.
That's fair. Like, they built up eggs. I just like, it felt like too long. It's like for them to meet and fall in love in the span of like, what, 3/4 of the first season, and then for them the entire second season to like see each other once. It just like chronologically was like, this seems like they don't see each other for a very long time. Which could be true. I don't know the timelines in the books, but I was like, it feels like it slowed down the momentum for me personally. But alas, alas.
I also love them.
I do too.
So,
but if they make one more like poorly written Nina waffle joke, it's on site. It's on site.
Bop, bop, bop.
I just like, do they sell waffles? Do they sell waffles? I love waffles. That's all I feel like Nina says. And I'm like, we get it. She likes waffles. Come on, give her something else.
Come on, give her something else. Anything else.
Anything else. Maybe she likes pancakes one day. I don't know. She would never, but I don't know. Just anything.
She would never treat on waffles like that.
No. Okay, we're drawing to a close. What are you reading, buddy boy?
We are. Oh my god, so many things. I read Happy Place last week.
Ugh.
I have mixed feelings. I'm not going to get into it. I acknowledge that I let other people's opinions color mine before I headed into it, and I wish I had not done that, because I think I would have enjoyed it more. My biggest critique of the book is this: it was filled with so many like what I'm calling Emily Henry cliches, like where it's like the two characters that are in love are in a moment together, and one specifically was like, we've always been like too close, like we've always been like one. And I was like, what? And then like a couple things happen, and then she basically rewords that sentence and says it again, and I'm like, we get it. They feel like they are connected at the hip, that the lines between their bodies are blurred. We get it. And it's like those type of cliches, it felt like they were like smushed into this book, that I was like, okay, we could take a couple of these out, because I think the really fun thing about this book is it's not just focusing on a romantic entanglement. It is so heavily based in friendship and the like love of a found family, that a lot of the love relationship stuff or romantic relationship stuff got in the way of that.
Yeah, because even like, I think I'm like 25 pages in, like 2 chapters in. And like for me, the most interesting thing is the friendships. Like the second that the love interest shows up, I'm like, my tummy hurts. You shouldn't be here.
I know. And honestly, I don't like him. I think he's my least favorite.
He seems like a butt face so far. I'm again 25 pages in, but I'm not loving him.
I think at that point, which is why I don't mind spoiling this.
Yeah, tell me.
You already understand that he like silences
so much
her a lot, and I hate that.
Or
and
like
it continues, like he'll just cut her off or like he'll stop her from talking, and I'm like,
not in 2023.
Red flag. So
and I don't love that. Like the first thing that we hear from, I don't even remember her name, the protagonist's name,
Harriet,
is that he's never called her a pet name. He only ever calls her Harriet. And then he's like, love bug, like all these pet names. I'm like, this just seems like maybe there's bigger singleism, but like it just seems misogynistic.
Wouldn't your friends be like, why are you doing that? You never call her that.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, this seems strange. And like,
so
I know heading in, it's not like the big romance that everyone's expecting it to be, which is fine. Like, I don't think it needs to be. No. I just don't think I like the love interest, which kind of sucks because Emily Henry's love interests are usually pretty slam dunk for me.
Yeah. So if I had to rank Emily Henry books in my order, bottom to top, it's People We Meet on Vacation, Happy Place, and then Book Lovers and Beach Read are like, they like to battle it out for the top spot every day.
I'm the same, but I think I would put Book Lovers over Beach Read. Yeah.
So I read that last week. I was telling Danielle this morning, I just DNF'd Wayward by Amelia Hart.
Yeah.
I got to 58% and I'm deciding to DNF it. I gave this book a really good go. It's basically about this family of women, and it follows 3 of them. One who was accused of being a witch in the 1600s, one who, it's like just after World War II, and she's a teenager, and one who's in her 30s escaping a very, very bad relationship, going to her great aunt's house, who is the woman from post World War II that we meet. So that person has died as of 2019 and left her house to her great niece. And I love me an aesthetic, character driven book.
Yeah.
But this is not it for me. It is going nowhere. I'm like, I am so not interested. It needed the biggest trigger warnings. I cannot believe this book didn't come with any content warnings at the beginning of it. And if it's in the printed book, I'm so disappointed it didn't make it into the audiobook, because this book is rife with sexual assault, on page assault that is horrifying. It is all about these women being like struck down by men in their lives, like constantly.
Oh, no.
And like domestic violence that is so like written out on the page for you, that leads to a pregnancy. And just like and then on top of that, like the big stuff, just like insects and bugs and creepy crawly things. Ooh. And I tried to like take it all in and just take it for what it was, but I'm like, I can't do it. I can't keep reading it. I cannot keep reading about these things. So that was DNF, unfortunately. But I am currently reading also Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, which is a phenomenal fantasy book. Oh my god. If you liked Game of Thrones and you liked the TV show The Last Kingdom, this is for you.
Okay.
It's about this boy named Tao who lives in this fantasy world where dragons exist and women can be gifted. And there's sort of like two castes of people. There's the nobles who basically breed within themselves to keep
like
a
like our royals.
higher race. And then there's the lessers, which is what Tau is. And the thing connecting them is the military. It's really important because they are fighting a war. And there's all these different things, like even though the lessers and nobles have to fight with each other in the same military, they get different training. They are pitted against each other in the beginning of their training to show that the nobles will always outlast the lessers.
Oh no. That's so...
And it's all about the like, is the tide turning? There's a little bit of romance in there, and it's like enough romance for me to be satisfied, because I was not expecting in this high fantasy world to get that. And I think it's very well done, the way that it's placed and the way it's unfolding. But it is a masterclass in combat writing. And it's so fast paced. It's like I read like 100 pages in an hour. It's like you're constantly flipping the page to find out what happens. And the way they broke it down the chapters, it's like a chapter is a giant section, and then there's section headings. So each heading is like between 2 and 5 pages.
Oh, love.
So it just like goes. It's great.
Ooh.
I'm hoping to finish today. I'm really excited.
Ooh, sounds fun.
What are you reading?
Good question. So I actually read quite a bit since last time we did this podcast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books since we last talked.
So proud of you.
But here's the thing: I'm only going to talk about 2.
That's fine.
Because the other ones were very mid. One was, and I did talk about it briefly, was Coached by Debney Perry. I finished it, 5-star read. It was so good.
Nice.
It's, again, here's the thing. Me and sports romance, I love me a good sports romance. It's gonna be over 500 pages. It's gonna be over, and it's too long for most people. I get it. But it is what it is. The Debney Perry book follows this. It's a second chance romance. So it's this couple who, they weren't even a couple. They were like best friends when they went to school at this university. And one night they were like best friends. She had the courage to kiss him, and they had this like glorious kiss. And then he never contacts her again, which we find out reasons for after why that happened. And then he becomes a like pro football player. And she works at the university that they attended as like a associate programming, like somebody in the sports department helping out with like making sure whatever. He gets an injury. He ends up coaching for that university. So they're working together. And there's a no fraternization rule, and they fraternize. But he's a single dad who's got this cutie little girl who like is so cute. And it's single dad, second chance romance, we can't be doing this but we're so in love. So it's just like a lot of fun. It's a good rom. And then the other sports romance that I just read on Kindle Unlimited, both of those are Kindle Unlimited books, it's called Mile High. It's part of the Windy City trilogy by Lisa Tom Ford, which it's hockey, and the second book is basketball. So if you really want a gambit of all of the sports, there you go. But it's between Stevie, who's a flight attendant on this like charter plane for this hockey team for their NHL season, whatever. And there's also a no fraternization. Nobody can have any kind of relationships. And
it's a close second to my NDA thing.
I know it is. It's like a nice cousin to it. It's a nice cousin, but this guy, Evan Zander, I think his name is, can't remember. They call each other I don't know. There's some nickname that they both, I don't know, can't remember. The book was so long. I read it so fast. But he keeps calling her over, asking her to get things that he can get himself just to annoy her.
Yeah.
And him and his best friend, who are like the co-captains, sit in the exit row. Whatever. So you have to have that security safety briefing every time by her. So it turns into this like flirty thing. And then it's like the tropes of it are like, I don't know how to be loved, but I want to be loved so badly, but from both of them, which is ouchie. Famous brother, like her brother is like this really famous NBA player who is what the second book is about. It's his romance.
I was gonna ask.
It is. And yeah, there's some like weird like familial they both have like not great families. There's like Stevie is, I would say, probably mid-size, fluctuating to plus size. Like she talks a lot about her body without ever really saying how big her body is, which is fine. But she talks about how like one of the gestures that this guy does with her is he sees her in public and she's wearing these like really ratty sweatpants. So he buys her sweatpants for, I think it's for Christmas or her birthday or something. But they're these designer pair, and he buys them in 3 different colors in like every size they come in because he doesn't know what size she is, and he wants her to be able to fit them. And so it becomes this theme where like he's so rich that he's just like, I don't know your size, and I know your size fluctuates, and you get upset when like you fit something one day and then you don't fit it the next day. So he's like, I'm just gonna get you all the sizes. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the answer, but it is interesting. It is interesting.
I would like to have my own personal store so that I don't have to feel bad about the clothes in my closet.
And like there's a lot of fat phobia in the book from the mom character, like a lot. I was like, oh god. But the love interest does a really good job of like combating that. And then the main character has like a really nice stand-up moment where she's like, oh, I like the way I look. Which was great. It's a good read. Both of them were good reads. I enjoyed both of them thoroughly. I'm currently reading Hood Feminism. I just downloaded the audiobook for it. I'm excited to read it.
Yeah, it's been on my TBR for a while.
Me too. And I was like, I just bit the bullet. I bought the audiobook. I was like, it's time to read it.
Nice.
It's time. And I'm reading Happy Place too, which you all know. Famously, I'm 25 pages in.
And famously, that is where this episode ends.
Famously.
We hope you enjoyed listening to us just chat away for the last little bit. And we like doing these little casual episodes every once in a while. They're fun.
We do.
So we hope you like them too. You can go ahead and leave the spa person emoji on our latest Instagram post to let us know that you listened. You could also leave it on YouTube if you're following us on YouTube. We are at Books on the Brain Pod on Instagram and YouTube. You should rate, review, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell and just let us know what you're loving about the podcast this season. We are happy to be back from our break. You can also go ahead and follow us on our personal accounts. I'm at Deirdre Rose Morgan on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
And I'm at DJ Books on TikTok, Instagram, and also Pinterest.
That is it from us for today. We will chat to you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.